Welcome. Myself, Minister Doug Smith from Gethsemane Worship Center, and Pastor Roger Neufeld Smith. We are here tonight to welcome you to a night of justice.
Amen.
Okay, this is the part where you all clap. Tonight we're going to hear from several spokespersons. Our officials and city leaders are here to join with us to celebrate justice, to challenge our notions about justice, and to reaffirm justice in the city of Topeka.
I'm just adding my word of welcome. It's a pleasure and a wonder to see this cathedral filled. Thank you so much. Give yourselves a round of applause. This represents the good work of many people, and it's been a pleasure to work with Minister Smith on this occasion. The Smith brothers are here in the house to do justice tonight.
Up for those who are on the outside, those who are poor, those who are marginalized. I know we face different issues today. Jesus' issues in the temple are not ours. They're different issues of justice. There's a different solution. Might be a little more complicated, but we need the same passion. We need a heart like Jesus. He saw people. He saw their struggles. He saw what was unjust for them. So I pray God gives us that heart. If there's a little anger, I think that's okay. We want passion that will last. Tonight, we want justice. So may the Lord, I pray, He gives us a heart like Jesus, whether we're clergy or civil servants or citizens. We want justice. So tonight, let's have passion and let's love our neighbor. Thank you for being here tonight.
If you're looking at the agenda and looking at your time, in your watch, you might know that we might be off a few minutes. But we are committed to being up out of here by 8:30. Amen? Amen. And so having said that, it is time to talk about justice. We are about to hear from the Mental Health Committee, the Safe and Affordable Housing Committee, and the Transportation Committee. In your seats, you should have found 3 postcards, a yellow one, a lime green one, and a blue one. Throughout the next few minutes, the spokespeople will ask you to do something with those cards. So if you have a pen or if you need a pen, now would be a great time to get out those writing utensils as we go into our issues reports.
I would now like to introduce to you Bradley Bowersox, who is going to share a little of his story. Minimize crisis and maximize recovery.
Good evening, folks. I'm going to take it y'all can hear me okay. Good evening, my name's Bradley. I attend Southern Hills Mennonite Church. I came back to Topeka in 2014 to reunite with my 2 children and my grandchildren and try to find some work. I am diagnosed with an anxiety disorder due to PTSD. I take depression and anxiety disorder medicines to help me keep it in line and also deal with high blood pressure. The cost of my meds is about $600 a month, and I have to scramble to stay on my treatment plan. Over the last several years, I've worked on and off at 5 different jobs, and I can tell you about the problems with Topeka's transportation system. I can tell you about how hard it is to find work with such an erratic work history. In 2014, I had a breakthrough. I was living at the rescue mission, been there around 9 or 10 months. I found a job in that area that was on the bus line, and if the bus didn't run, I could ride my bike. I got an apartment with some assistance, and I even got a car to drive to work. Here I was on the road to recovery. And recovery is hard, though. One night I got home from work around 2:30 a.m., and I woke up around 4:30 a.m., thinking that someone was trying to break into my car and trying to get in my apartment. I didn't have enough money at the time to buy my anxiety meds, so I was getting delusional, seeing things weren't there. I called the police 5 times, and on the 5th time I was arrested and put in jail for making a false report. Really, I was jailed for having delusions. I asked officers to please take me to Vallejo, where I could get back on my meds and be safe. I said, no, you'll be safe, you're going to jail. After I was bailed out the next day, things even got worse. I was an emotional mess. I hadn't had my meds while I was in jail. I lost my job, and eventually my car. When I did get another job, I was eventually fired for too many absentees, going to see my probation officer, Vallejo, and going to court on a weekly basis at that time. So I'm not working right now. I'm an alcoholic, so I struggle with not drinking day to day, which I've been able to manage. So I have no job, I have no money. I've been denied Medicaid twice. And I know what it takes to get on the road to recovery. It's steady work, staying on my anxiety medications, and a predictable routine and positive support. It's not all that hard and not all that complicated. I do not fit the official category of severe and persistent mental illness, so I cannot get into Vallejo's supported employment program. But I need that kind of support for me to stay employed. I want to work. When I work, I'm productive and I contribute something to society. Working gives me my life meaning. And I am one more person who wants to be on the supported employment program today if I could. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bradley, for sharing that. And we'll talk about you a little. Is that okay? My name is Phil Esau. I attend Southern Hills Mennonite Church, and I'm a Topeka Jump Research Network member. The system that is to bring recovery is inconsistent. Bradley has never been referred to Vallejo's supported employment program. And this is true of hundreds of people like Bradley, and there really are a lot of reasons that we could go into, but don't have time for that right now. Supporting Bradley and encouraging him to stay on treatment and helping with decisions that will help him keep his job requires lots of time. That is an employment specialist job for which he or she is well trained. If Bradley had had an employment specialist while working at Reesers at the time of his crisis, he would never have been booked into jail, and the employer would have been willing to work with him. When Bradley is working and regularly supported, he keeps up with his meds and treatment plan. He lives a dignified life, but when he is not working, he risks losing his home and falls into that jail, ER, and Vallejo revolving door crisis. That cycle. With that kind of stress often comes substance abuse. When crisis prevails over recovery, thousands of people rotate from apartments to the emergency rooms, to the street, to the shelters, to the jail, and so forth, costing taxpayers and providers in Shawnee County over $7.5 million a year. Evidence-based supported employment can break the cycle of the revolving door. The LEOS program successfully pairs people with mental illness with appropriate employment. We know that it is cheaper to invest in supported employment than to invest in a jail cell. We know that Vallejo's consumers have resume gaps that raise red flags for employers. But an employment specialist can work through those gaps and help the employer put that into context. We know Vallejo's program is 4 times more effective than other models that we know about, but it is limited in the number of people it reaches today. This is a tragedy because the goal should be to minimize crisis, maximize recovery. I'm not sure that you're all that convinced about that. Let's try that again. Minimize crisis, maximize recovery. Tonight we are proposing the establishment of an additional way that Vallejo Behavioral Health Care and the Shawnee County Department of Corrections can partner with each other to provide evidence-based supported employment to inmates that will continue to serve offenders upon their release. Just to be clear, tonight we are not asking for a financial commitment. We are asking for the first step in making this partnership a reality. We have met with Bill Persinger and Brian Cole. Bill is the CEO of Vallejo, and Brian Cole, the director of the Shawnee County Department of Corrections. We've met a number of times before tonight to discuss this proposal. Bill Persinger and Brian Cole. Oh, and Brian, we regret leaving your name off that agenda. I want you to know that was not intentional. So I'm really glad that you're sitting there. You didn't leave. Thank you. Would you please come up and join me here? We'd like to articulate the next steps in creating this additional partnership. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Phil.
I have two.
It's only about 45-minute speech, Phil, don't worry.
We have a big guy back here.
I know, I saw Carl earlier. Reminded me to keep it short.
Well, I have 2 questions for each of you, and then after the questions and your answers, you will each have 2 minutes to expand on your answers. Did you get that?
I'm hard of hearing.
2 minutes to expand on your answers after we've done. I'm going to give you the questions, and I think you may already have them.
Thank you.
Here we go. Mr. Persinger and Mr. Cole, will you partner to develop a proposal by July 2017 to hire and share the cost of a full-time employment specialist dedicated to inmates at the Shawnee County Jail who have a mental health diagnosis and want to work, and the designation SPMI is not required?
Yes.
Yes. That's a yes. Will you meet with us in 30 days to share the details of this plan?
Will. Absolutely.
Thank you. Topeka, jump! So you each have 2 minutes, if you wish.
I'll defer to Director Cole.
Well, thank you very much. I first want to say thank you to Bradley for having the courage and the strength to come forward, because one of the things for somebody whose family has grown up and retired in the mental health system at Osawatomie State Hospital, and looking at those who fall on the doors of the jail, breaking the stigma of mental illness has got to be our #1 priority, allowing those who suffer with mental illness not to be afraid to come forward or others to shun them away. I want to let you know that you're not going to find anybody else, a director in corrections, that's more passionate about this, and I've got Eve Kendall probably, I hope, would say the same. I see a lot of what you all don't see each day. Those who are homeless, those who are hungry, those who are delusional, those who don't understand why they're in jail. And I'm not here to say somebody was arrested illegally or anything like that, but that we must find ways to find alternatives to divert. And when I say that your local jail is the largest psychiatric caregiver in your community, I'm going to look at you and I'm going to say, that's wrong. Jail does have a purpose, and I want to say this, that I have a commissioner that's here today that has been very passionate, very supportive of what we're doing, and that we are in the process now. We've hired a reentry person who's going to be looking at these things. We are in the process of going back to the commissioners to implement a outstanding mental health program, not recycling center, but program for those who are there in the jail. And I can tell you that I've been around the block, and that this community is far, far ahead of what others are doing. So with that, you have my commitment. And I will work with the commissioners, the city council, this community, everybody, the employers, the agencies, to help us find meaningful employment and to better our community. Thank you very much.
You may cheer when you find out I'm not going to talk for 45 minutes. Not even 4 or 5. 2 is pretty hard for me because of the passion that has driven my career since 1974 when I first stepped foot in the Community Mental Health Center in Kansas. I'm a native of Northeast Kansas, and I thought, gosh, I don't have to come up here by myself. I turn around and I see Carl and Joyce and Shanae, and there's Phil over there, and I know I'm going to forget a few names. I just want to say thank you for bringing so many friendships to Vallejo and to our unique mission. Work and housing, safety, reuniting families, preventing suicide, intervening early, finding young people and a way to get them help as soon as possible are all of what I would tell you that Vallejo does with its partners. The rescue mission, interfaith community, our elected officials, our appointed officials, partners like Director Cole here, who was one of the first people to step up to the plate when I got here nearly 18 months ago from Emporia and offer up his help. And the wonderful things that Vallejo is doing couldn't exist without the context that we enjoy in this family tonight. So I want to say going forward that the word that occurs to me after listening tonight is upstream. So we hear about prevention, we hear about early intervention. I could tell you about the 29 programs and the 320 staff at Vallejo and where our funding comes from. Thank you again, Commissioner Bueller and Cook and Archer. But what I want to say is that Vallejo is about 4 or 5 things. And what we really do is, with our partners in the community, help people find jobs, places to live, a family or friends, and a social context. In some cases, a reconnection with their spiritual self, and safety, personal or community safety. That's what we do, and there's just no way we can do that alone. So I say thank you to our partners.
And thank you.
Minimize crisis. And we look as to make a jump. We look forward to working with both of you gentlemen in making this partnership a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, babies. Good evening. I'm Pastor Curtis Odom from In God's House Church. Amen. And I'm here to speak passionately about the problem of safe and affordable housing. In the city of God, all people share in God's bounty. In the city of God, it does not matter whether you're white, black, red, yellow, brown, purple, whether you're male or female, whether you are a professional or a laborer, whether you have a mental health condition or not. In the city of God, it's all about having the right to share in God's bounty. It's all about people. Let's try that one more time. It's all about people. It's all about people. While no city has achieved City of God status, we should be doing all that we can to achieve and strive toward that mark. Where mental health crisis prevails over recovery, there is work to be done. It's all about people. Where people who must take care of their families cannot reach the good-paying jobs, there's work to be done. It's all about people. And where children must sleep with rodents, breathe in lead, and move from one house to another and another again and again, there's work to be done. It's all about people. In our city, 50% of Topeka renters pay half of their income for rent and utilities. I want to say that one more time with some passion. In our city, 50% of Topeka renters pay half of their income for rent and utilities. That's more people that can fit in the Expo Center. It's all about people. And when people do not find affordable rental housing, conditions, when they do, are disgusting. More than 10,000 rental units in our city are falling apart. They have plumbing problems, roofs leak, and windows and doors, well, they leak also, bringing even more hardship to those who are already struggling with higher utility bills and sickness and illness. I would like to introduce at this time Janet Niefler to the podium to share her testimony.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Janet, and I attend Westside Baptist Church here in Topeka. And I raised my family in the greater Topeka area, and my children are now adults with families of their own. My husband and I provided our children with a stable home. However, in their adult lives, my children are no strangers to the challenges that one can encounter in getting their basic needs met. My 34-year-old daughter's life has been up and down. She's faced her share of challenges, but she's resilient. She now has a full-time job and brings home a steady paycheck. Still, that paycheck's pretty small, only about $640 a month. Finding an affordable apartment that will allow her enough money to buy groceries, pay utilities, get transportation to and from work, and otherwise make ends meet is impossible. She's applied for a Section 8 voucher from the Housing Authority, and she was put on a waiting list, and there are 2,000 families ahead of her. So she rents a private house. She really can't afford that rent. And when you stand in her living room, you can feel the air blowing by from the leaky windows and doors. And her options are further limited by her rental history. Before she had this current job, she didn't work full-time, and she would get evicted because she couldn't pay her rent. That past history haunts her now and leads to a vicious cycle. Even now that she has full-time work, she cannot find a decent place to live because of that past history. I worry that sooner rather than later, that situation will lead to another eviction. Without a disability, it's hard to qualify for programs that provide rent based on income and therefore find safe and affordable housing on her limited income. Topeka really needs more options available to the working poor. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet, for sharing your story. In case you forgot, my name is Roger Neufeld Smith, one of the Smith brothers.
Amen.
Last year at this Nehemiah Action Assembly, we made a proposal to our mayor, Larry Wolgast, asking him to lead the way in developing a plan to address the housing crisis that we've just heard about. We asked the mayor to organize an affordable housing task force to research and hopefully reestablish an affordable housing trust fund with a dedicated revenue source. The mayor responded favorably, and I would say courageously, and organized such a task force. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The task force has been met every month in one form or another, and it's been my pleasure to serve on that task force. Unfortunately, though we've talked about many important things, we have not yet devised a specific proposal to revise that Affordable Housing Trust Fund, nor have we yet done all the research necessary to identify a dedicated revenue source. For the last several weeks, however, the mayor has worked with city staff to present a resolution to the Topeka City Council to allocate $500,000 for affordable housing this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The resolution was presented to the City Council last week. However, the Council moved to delay a vote on that resolution till May 16th, which is 3 weeks from now, which gives us an opportunity, if you take out that yellow postcard, to let our City Council members know how we feel about investing additional money in affordable housing. Now, the mayor is working for us to make this affordable housing work, so now it's our part. Please find that card. And on that card, if you agree that housing is a big enough crisis to take a very small proportion of the excess sales tax money, only 5% of $10 million excess, and repurpose this, and if you want the Topeka City governing body to approve such an investment, sign this card and leave it in your seat after our meeting is over so that the ushers can pick it up. If you know the council member's name, your council member's name, write it on some appropriate place on the card. Be sure to provide your address so the city council members can verify that you're a constituent. If you're not living in the city limits of Topeka, then write that you are a concerned partner in this effort. On May 9th, we're going to hand deliver these postcards to the city council because your voice matters. Also, the mayor encourages me to tell you that if you email your city council member and tell them why this issue is important, that is very effective as well. So at this time, I'd like to invite the mayor to come forward and to talk about how we can move this housing campaign forward. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your leadership thus far. We know that you have had a very busy time with many important things recently. So we appreciate you giving your attention to this crucial community issue this evening. We know that serious community problems like this do not go away overnight, so we appreciate your efforts. So we are going to ask you 4 questions this evening that we want to discuss with you. These are the same questions that we talked about yesterday in your office. And if
I got a preview.
we try to not surprise anybody. And here's a copy of the questions if you need those. We'd appreciate your responses, but we'd be glad for you to take a couple of minutes right now to make any comments you'd want on the questions or on this need for housing that we have in Topeka.
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to come back. I was here last year, and we started this process. On page, I think page 5 of your program, there's a listing of the different, what's happened in the last year, and you can see there that the Affordable Housing Task Force that was put together has really met every month. I'm very proud of that task force. We put together the various entities involved in housing in our community. They are the experts: Topeka Housing Authority, Cornerstone, Habitat for Humanity, the Topeka Rescue Mission. We include the Landlords Association, Pioneer Group. These people know housing and how it exists. Secondly, we looked at how can we make the biggest improvement in housing and the housing stock immediately. And we thought one way is to improve code issues so that we can upgrade the housing that exists. And I'm very proud that the city has implemented a number of new initiatives in the code enforcement area. It's almost tripled the number of citations that are being issued. There are no more prosecutions, so that is happening. And then during the last year, we have looked at question number 1, how do we put together a process to really make a difference in affordable housing in the community? And I want to say Pastor number one Smith, and Ray Robinson, Shanae Elam, 3 members from JUMP have been, I think, 100% attendance at all of the committee meetings. So JUMP has been well represented as well as the other entities. And so, first question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First question. Will you lead the Affordable Housing Task Force in writing a revised Affordable Housing Trust Fund ordinance with a dedicated public revenue source suggested by the task force, or will you develop with the task force a plan for a comparable structure as outlined in our agenda?
Yes, with an asterisk. You may have not have heard that. I said yes with an asterisk. Yes, and that is in the process of being developed right now. We're looking at different things. Kansas City, Kansas, Wyandotte County has some excellent programs that we're having people come over. We have visited there, seeing how we can replicate rather than us starting anew. What can we learn from other communities? And also through the Topeka Housing Authority, they have an organizational setup that really we can just enable it to come in and help us with the process. Now, of course, guaranteeing a certain amount of money, I don't control. Our interim city manager doesn't control. We have 10 members on the governing body. They have to vote for something, but we will work to see that we can bring this about. And as you know, can't guarantee it, but we'll work hard to see that we can do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We understand that you can't do this by yourself, so we appreciate your leadership, and that's what we want, and that's what we're asking for this evening. Thank you. So, question 2. Will you direct staff to present a revised trust fund ordinance or a compatible structure to the Topeka City Council before they adopt their 2018 budget?
The Affordable Housing Task Force is working on this right now, and with what we have brought to the council, we have said, give us 90 days to put together a proposal and take to the council so that you understand what we're going to do with this money we're asking for, we're requesting. So I think that's the 90-day time frame. If that is what the council approves, certainly there will be an answer by that time. So the answer would be yes, with that possibility.
90 days is fine with us, Mayor.
Problem statement. I'd like to start off by sharing a testimony about a woman named May. May is a network member at Asbury Mount Olive United Methodist Church. She came to Jump and told us her story about having limited access to jobs because they do not fall on the bus line. For reasons other than affordability, May does not have her own car. May has found herself greatly discouraged with her current job search because she's limited to specific jobs such as retail or service jobs that only pay about $9 an hour because of her dependability on the bus system. May told us, if I could just rely on public transportation to get me to and from my job, then I could apply for those entry-level positions at Mars starting at $12.50 an hour. May is an upstanding, hard-working, tax-paying citizen. She deserves the right for her tax dollars to pay for a transportation system that will not only assist her needs, but the needs of others in our community. Although May's lifestyle does not include a car, she should not be excluded from better opportunities. There are many people here in our community who face the same struggles as May. This year, in March, the Workforce Development Center conducted a study and found that 1 in 5 people, that's 20% of people who sought help through the Topeka Workforce Center, cited transportation as a barrier. That's 350 people a year. Look around you, that's enough to fill up this row of pews. People without personal vehicles deserve the right to work where they are qualified, just like everybody else. In this campaign, we as Topeka Jump want Topeka Metro to provide a solution for employees traveling to and from industrial areas of South Topeka. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia, for sharing May's story. Again, I'm Ann Flynn, and I serve here at Grace Cathedral, and I have the transportation proposal. In order for Topeka Metro to make the changes we are proposing tonight, we need to accomplish 3 things. We have 3 hurdles to jump. Hurdle number 1, this change has to be a recommendation of a regional plan called Futures 2040. This regional plan outlines the development of all modes of transportation for the next 20 years. Many of us went to public meetings last year to help highlight this particular transportation need. Topeka Jump brought 114 people to public meetings where we expressed the need for transportation to major employers near the Montera neighborhood. We want people who live in Topeka to get to jobs at great companies like Mars Candy, Bimbo Bakeries, and Home Depot's distribution center. Jobs that will improve the lives of the entire family. As a result of public feedback, the plan, as it is written today, includes this recommendation and is slated to be approved in June of 2017. But we want to make sure that this vital concern is in the final plan. In order to jump this first hurdle, you need to sign the lime green postcard at your seat. Join me, pick this up, wave it high in the air. All right. If you don't have one, the ushers will get you one. So just indicate to an usher that you need one. Your signature on this card tells the MTPO that you support keeping this recommendation in the plan. Take just a minute and sign the card, and leave it at your seat when you exit tonight. Hurdle number 2. The General Manager of Topeka Metro, Susan Duffy, would need to draft a plan for transportation solutions that get people to those jobs. She would then need to present the plan to the Joint Economic Development Organization, known as JADO, for discussion and consideration. Tonight, Susan Duffy has been invited to affirm her commitment to this work. Ms. Duffy, please join me at the podium.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for what you have done the last year. Kudos to this group for their ongoing efforts to make sure that this night happens, so thank you. Next, I would like all of you to participate. Raise your hand if you ride Topeka Metro bus to work. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is the problem. Here in Topeka, Kansas, it's too easy to roll up the garage door, get in your car, back down the driveway, and drive that, 5-minute, 10-minute drive to work? Oh, and if you have to sit through 2 traffic lights, gosh darn, it's a busy day in Topeka. Goodness gracious, what is this? I had to sit through 2 lights. I'm gonna call the mayor. Mayor, do something. Transit is a hard sell in the Midwest if you have a job and your life is pretty easy. But for so many of us, that is not the way it goes. So, your life ends at 7:20 or 7:30 when we're off the road. I am here to tell you that the vision of Topeka Metro is to be a transportation solution provider, to explore and implement ideas and plans that will improve the social, economic, and environmental welfare for all Topekans. To that end, we will, on June 2nd, propose to Go Topeka. That is the group that we will appear before because they are the workforce group and then ultimately the transportation group. We will propose a South Topeka workforce route. We had a plan a couple of years ago. It did not get a vote. There were some other things involved, but we were asked to withdraw it at that time. There is a cost to providing a route down to South Topeka. At that time, a couple of years ago, it was about $280,000 to stand up a route. We're doing research with the help of the Washburn Leadership Institute, and we will have a recommendation and we will have a price tag for that, and we will present it. So you can count on that from Topeka Metro. I'm also here to tell you that we have extended our night service to a 7:20. We did stop at 6:40, we're going to 7:20. But the story that was so eloquently said, I hear that when I ride the bus. I work at Reesers, but I need to work where I get paid more. I need to work where I get paid more. And why not?
So that sounds like a yes?
It is a yes.
All right.
I want to thank all of you, and if I could, because we all ride together. Why? Because we all ride together. Thank you.
Okay.
Tonight we have assembled to have a night of justice. We've heard testimonies about mental health issues, testimonies about transportation, testimonies about housing. Through those testimonies, we can only imagine the hardships that our friends and our families in Topeka endure every day of every week of every year. We have tonight an assembly of power. I don't know if you've looked around this room, but we've got all shades. We've got all income levels. We've got all responsibilities, all levels of leadership assembled in this place. This is truly what God wanted us to do, to be about his business and do justice in Topeka. We heard about minimizing crisis. We heard that it's about people. And we heard that we have to ride together. Boy, that was sad. But it's okay, it's late. So this Nehemiah Action Assembly is a symbolic of perhaps our greatest Christian unity of our community. But our diversity runs past our faith. This sanctuary, right here tonight, is filled with people from the east side to the west side, from the north side to the south side, from white people to people of color, to short people to tall people, and we won't even talk about the weight issue. With all of our differences, there's one thing that we can agree on, and that's justice. It's no small coincidence that we're here in this sacred place, not only in this great sanctuary, but in Topeka, Kansas, the place of Brown v. Board of Education. Justice. In this place, justice for housing, justice for transportation, justice for mental health, justice for the least of these. We have to be about our Father's business. These issues won't go away unless we act as the moral compass for our community, unless we keep these issues in front of our leaders. They have a hard job. Tonight, we challenged them, they responded. What I would ask everybody who can and is able to do it, with the exception of our honored guests, let's stand up and give them a round of applause. Thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you so much for standing in the gap for Topeka, Kansas. While you're standing, that's all right. You guys can keep on clapping if you want to. I'm going to keep going. While you're standing, let's say a word of prayer. If you took the bus or took one of the shuttles, those will still be available to you. If you are